Now, when you retire, you don't say, you know what, I want $1 million or $2 million. When you retire, you say, I can retire if I have this amount of income. So, for example, let's say the overall household income, because pretty much Joe, me and you can retire today. Everyone can retire today if they can produce their monthly bills and income and some extra for some fun. But the problem is we can't retire today because we don't have that income saved.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of The Measuring Post, where we actually measure what matters. And today I'm bringing you another really cool guest, somebody that's actually the president of Serenity Retirement, which is an independent retirement planning practice. They're based out of Pasadena, California. And since 2006, he's helped individuals and families turn what they've saved into an actual retirement plan that works for them. He specializes in income planning, Social Security, Medicare, taxes, even long-term care. So please welcome today, Mr. Ben Millan, the president of Serenity Retirement, to The Measuring Post. Ben, how are you today, sir?
Good, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. And we've actually done several shows similar to this where we talk about the importance of finances. The show itself is more about how to be the best version of yourself, but that definitely includes your finances and how to plan for the later years in life, which is something I think we all think about, but we don't always execute properly. So, before we talk shop about Serenity Retirement, tell us a little bit about yourself and where are you calling from outside of Pasadena, correct?
Yes. Well, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I've been in this business. August will be 2 decades in this business. And prior to COVID, Joe, I actually was a typical advisor who would help people accumulate their assets. Help them get out of debt. Work with people usually under 50 that are trying to build their portfolios. And then COVID hit, and I started doing online marketing because I'm home, have time, can't really go and see individuals anymore. And started doing online marketing, and noticed people that were coming in. I was trying to target the people that I'm used to targeting, the people that are trying to build their wealth, and people that were calling in were actually seniors that are in retirement or near retirement, and they want all their money, their 95% of their money that's in qualified accounts. Those are like IRAs, 401k, stuff that has not been taxed yet, and they want it tax free. And I also started doing Medicare in the end of 2018. So I said, you know what, this is a great transition. Why not just, my mom was aging into Medicare. So I said, why not just concentrate strictly on seniors? So after COVID around 2021, I just started concentrating on the senior market. And it's a lot easier to deal with the seniors, Joe. It's like being a parent. Like, I'm a parent of a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And you really, now me being almost 46 in July, I realized, you know what, my parents weren't so bad. They actually did pretty good stuff. And it's kind of like when you're a senior, you realize, you know what, the stuff that I learned wasn't the best. There was actually better ways to do it. So there's really no, it's easier to deal with the senior market because they already know the mistakes that they made. Just like it's easier to be a grandparent because your kids realize that you weren't actually that bad of a parent. So I started concentrating strictly on the senior market, and now help people protect their wealth. Because once you're a senior, you're pretty much done growing it. Now it's time, let's protect it, and also help people with their income as well. So that's my main focus, is protecting their wealth and providing that income gap for families.
Yeah, such a valuable service. And we're very similar in age. I got two kids as well. One's a little older. My son's in college. But, teaching him what I didn't know when I was his age, he'll be in a much better place than I was at, in my early 20s. But also, I love your sort of angle on the seniors. They already know the mistakes they've made. But in all fairness and hindsight, there was a completely different rule book for them, right? If you go back far enough, it was a single income household. Mom stayed home, raised the kids. Dad worked at the factory. He got his 30-year, gold watch, his pension paid out, and they were all able to be happy and survive off of that. That's simply not the case anymore. And, it's almost really difficult to have a home with only one single source of income because of the inflation, because of the new rules, because of the way things are designed in the financial world. So I love the focus on seniors. Do you find yourself when you're working with that population that they wish that they could break into more of the modern day stuff like cryptocurrencies and real estate investing, or is that more of a scary dynamic to them? They just want the old tried and true platforms, IRAs, 401ks.
I would say, Joe, that 95% of them are old school. In fact, you brought up about the single household. I was actually raised by my dad only working. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad actually told me not to go to college, go get a trade. And, so this way, after 34 years, like my dad retired with the pension. So those people are definitely the old school mentality, the baby boomers, where like they want to touch stuff. A lot of people love real estate because they can touch it. Crypto they can't touch. Cash they can touch. So a lot of the people are not that savvy with that. They're very old school. What they know the hours of 401ks. I can touch cash. I can touch real estate. But the ones that are savvy, I'm actually impressed. Usually the older ones in their 70s and 80s that say, you know what, I want to day trade. And they're doing, I have this one guy that I know in my church that he's in his mid 70s and he's doing day trading, 3 day trades on crypto and lo- loves it. So I tell people, it's up to, as long as you're having fun with it, because it's your golden years. Golden years don't mean going in a rocking chair and and doing nothing. You have to enjoy what you built. And a lot of seniors, unfortunately, they end up dying with their money because they're too scared to pull it out. One, because of taxes, and they just said, "What am I going to do with all this money?" They don't want to move up to the next tax bracket because of IRMA for their Medicare jumping up there. So a lot of people just don't really want to spend their money. And then you have those other people that say, "Yeah, forget my kids. I live my life," and and they spend it. But the majority of people actually just don't want to spend their money, and they don't want to grow it. They just want to just protect it and leave it to their kids.
Yeah, that's very, very common, I would imagine. And really, I think a lot of that could probably stem from fear. Like you said, it's the unknown. How do I take this out? How do I utilize it without getting a huge slap on the wrist from, Uncle Sam taking a big chunk of my money? And that's really what a lot of people don't understand about certain types of IRAs. They're really a great tax vehicle to hold on and be able to utilize some of your money. So, is there any one particular product that you recommend over the other? And then a secondary question on that, what's sort of the dollar amount you recommend somebody retires with to comfortably be able to live if they wanted to use their earned assets?
Good, two good questions, which most people ask me a lot. And to the first one, when it comes to the product, when it comes to taxes, I always tell people, and I'm not a tax expert, but I know enough, and I'm just a common sense person. And when you look at the tax bracket, right? So when you're the head of household, married, let's say that the 24% tax bracket, and I'm just throwing out numbers here because I don't have it in front of me. Let's just say that is $200,000, and the next tax bracket from 24% jumps up to 32%. So let's say that you're at 200,000 to keep it in the 24% tax bracket. Well, if you're hovering on that 201,000, 210,000, you're going to jump up to the next tax bracket. That's when you put your money into those IRAs, into those 401ks to jump you down to the next tax bracket or keep you in that lower tax bracket. A lot of people and CPAs, accountants, advisors do not tell people only contribute to those qualified accounts if it's going to lower your tax bracket. But if you're going to be in that same tax bracket, all you're doing is de- delaying the inevitable, which is why I work with seniors, because they realize you're so true. The younger people like, nah, I'm going to max it out, max it out, max it out. Okay, well, I don't have to wait. I don't have time to wait 30 years to say, hey, I told you so. So the seniors were like, you know what? That is so true, but no one ever taught me that stuff. So one, put money in qualified accounts. Finance 101 is take the free amount. So if your company's matching you 3%, take the 3%. But if they're anything over that, only put in if it's going to keep you in that low tax bracket or put you below the tax bracket. And then after that, you put money in qualified account. In a non-qualified account, stuff that's tax free. Roth IRA is one of them, but then again, you're limited on how much you can put in a Roth IRA. So I like life insurance. I call it the rich man's Roth. Why? Because you can make as much money as you want. And people that have a Roth, I say, well, you're pretty much middle to lower middle class people that put money in life insurance. Well, they're pretty much wealthy people because you're not limited on the how much you can put in it, and also on the income that you make to put in that stuff. So put money in qualified accounts if it's going to put you in that tax bracket, lower it, and then after that, put money in tax-free buckets like a Roth if you qualify, or life insurance. And to your second question about the amount of money, it's not really the amount of money per se. It's it's turning people's money into income. For example, when you retire, you don't say, you know what, I want $1 million or $2 million. When you retire, you say, I can retire if I have this amount of income. So, for example, let's say the overall household income, because pretty much Joe, me and you can retire today. Everyone can retire today if they can produce their monthly bills and income and some extra for some fun, right? But the problem is we can't retire today because we don't have that income saved. So I help people fill that income gap. So for example, let's say your monthly bills are, or I ask a senior, what is your dream amount? They say my goal is 5,000 a month. I say, okay, great. Well, what are you bringing in from Social Security, from your pension? And you add all that stuff together, your guaranteed monies, let's say Joe is 2,500. Great. Their income gap now is 2,500. So you have to get their $1 million, whatever they saved, to produce that 2,500. So I don't tell people how much money do they need per se. I say, what is that income gap? So if you need an extra $2,500 to retire in the next 5 years, then X amount of money will get you that $2,500. Too many people work because they're trying to reach that dollar amount. Joe, have you ever heard of the 4% rule?
I don't believe I have.
Okay, so the 4% rule is pretty much, if I have $1 million, 4% of $1 million is $40,000. So people try to work until they get that 4%. Why? Because if you're managing someone's money, then it could take some hits, but if you're taking out 4%, your money should last you your lifetime. Well, I say, forget the 4% rule. We need that income gap. What is that exact income amount? And what I do is I fill that income gap with guaranteed income. And I have a software that has every single guaranteed income in the nation that people say, I want extra $2,500. Great. It'll take X amount of money to get you $2,500. So that's pretty much people need to start focusing on when it comes to retirement, is not that dollar amount, because we don't know what that dollar amount is going to be in 20 years from now, right? Because inflation and all that stuff like that is just crazy. So we need to bring it in terms of what is my income gap. Income gap is the word people need to realize. And once we do that, then we can find out what the dollar amount is.
Yeah, that's a brilliant strategy, and one that I've never heard explained that way. And it actually makes perfect sense, because a dollar amount's only as good as what you can pull out of it and what you can utilize it for.
Exactly.
So that actually makes more sense, cover the cost of your living. But again, I'm sure that changes when you're talking about maybe someone who's 70 or 80 years old that's been in the same house for 50 years, that they bought for 42 grand. It's been paid off for 4 decades, versus somebody like, our age in the market today, where say I go and buy a new house and it's a $700,000 house, which is a median price in certain places. The interest rate's 6 to 7%. All of a sudden, my monthly payments are significantly higher than somebody that purchased in that sort of same echelon 40, 50 years ago. So there's a new disparity between what we need to make today versus what somebody is, basically living off of back then. But I want to circle back to one product that you mentioned specifically, because a gentleman that I used to talk to and do a lot of financial stuff with was a really big proponent on the whole life insurance savings accounts. Can you explain a little bit about that? Does it have to be whole life or can it be a term policy? And how does the ability to put money into it, because you can put as much cash into it as you want, and then you can borrow from it and never repay it, from my understanding. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Pretty much. And when it comes to insurance, there's two types of insurances. One is term. Term is like renting a home. So you're renting it for a period of time. Usually max is 30 years. So I always tell people, when it comes to insurance, you want to get both. You want to get a term. Like for example, when I started this business, I was around 25, 26. So I got myself a permanent policy. But then you can't get as much coverage when you get a permanent because you're paying because the cost of it costs more. Just like when you rent a house, it costs more to rent a house. You need a down payment. You need to so I s- I started off with two permanent policies, and then I got married. I said, you know what? I think I need more coverage for my family, so I got a 20-year term. Right when my son was born, I said I need some coverage. So if I pass away, my wife has a good amount to uh, carry on my income as well as you know pay for all the necessities possible. So you need term. I always say term if term to figure out is pretty much like what your mortgage is. So if you have a 20-year mortgage left, get a 20-year term, 15-year mortgage, 15-year term. We call it the die method to figure out insurance. People don't realize this, but everything has an equation to it. There's always a math to everything we do. And in insurance, it's called a die method. D stands for debt. So what is your overall debt? Then I stands for income. What is your income replacement? M is mortgage. What's your mortgage? And E is education. So if I have two kids, I want to leave 100 grand per kid or 200,000. You put that there. What is your mortgage amount? So if that person passes away, because like I said earlier, Joe, that now we're a two income society. My dad's days of just him working, my mom being a stay home mom is pretty much over now. People need two incomes. So if one income passes, if one spouse passes away, then there goes that income. And that's why people end up in foreclosures. They end up moving back with their parents and they get into financial distress because of that stuff. And then the debt is pretty much the debt on yourself because, like, for example, when my dad passed away, all the debt in my dad's name passed away with my dad. So my mom became debt free because why? It was all in my dad's name. So I say, if it's debt, then get the debt on your spouse on you, and then vice versa. So this way, if you pass away, your spouse's debt is all taken care of, mortgage is taken care of, income replacement is taken care of, and then the kids' education is taken care of. So we need some type of replacement. If we can't afford a house, we have to live somewhere, so we rent a home. Then once we can buy a house, great. Now we get cash value life insurance. Why? This is why I like working with seniors, Joe, because senior says, if I knew that insurance thingy, I would have done that cash values type of thing before. I said, and they said, can I get it? And I said, sorry, you're a little too old for that now. You can't get it. But they say, yeah, but only if I knew that before. The young people really don't see that stuff because, like I say, they're into the qualified accounts. But when it comes to cash value, whole life is a little outdated. I call whole life like the Toyota Corolla, it works, it's good, but it's not fast like a Ferrari, or, like these awesome cars that are driving themselves now. So Teslas, now the new thing is, Joe, is the index universal life. Whole life is pretty much going to last your whole life. It has a place for it, but it's pretty much for people that want a final expense. The cash value one is the index universal life, which is a cash value one, and I call it the whole life on steroids. So it's the most upgraded one, and that's the one that most people are now using for to build people's wealth, and that's what I have on myself. I have two on myself. I have one on my kids. The reason why, Joe, I like it so much is because if we put money in our kids' college 5 to 9 plans, put money in Roth, when you apply for financial aid, then it's going to show that mom and daddy had money saved here in these accounts. But when we apply for the same thing and our money, let's say you have $100,000, $200,000 in your child's life insurance plan, it's not considered an asset on your kids when you're applying for financial aid. So that's why it's a very good vehicle to use for that stuff. And then also I use it for my retirement as well. It's a good place to, if we're trying to build just cash value and compare it to a 401k or an IRA or mutual funds, stocks, it's not going to outperform it, Joe. That's not what it's built for. It's built for one, protection, and two, do I want to take and then come out of it later? So a lot of these get tricky, and there's a lot of bad PR about it online because a lot of advisors, I would probably say 95% of them do not know how to properly structure a cash value insurance plan. So if you want it strictly for death purposes, then use it for death purposes. If you want it for cash value, then you got to structure it for cash value. One of my friends asked me, I heard that, that in these plans that you only get the just the death benefit. That's what Dave Ramsey says, only the death benefit. That's incorrect. There's three ways you can structure it. One, I only want to structure it for death benefit purposes. That's level A. That's called level. That means if you die and you have $50,000 worth of cash value and your death benefit is $100,000, you're only going to get the $100,000. Then two is increasing. That's B, meaning that if I have $100,000 plus $50,000 and I pass away, they get both the $150,000. Then there's C, which is return of premium. That if they have $100,000 and they put in $20,000 worth of premium, then they're going to get the $120,000. A lot of people, 99.9% of people do not know that there's three levels to do these things. They say, if you die, you only get the death benefit. Horrible investment. That is not correct. It's all on how you structure it. And one thing about myself, Joe, is I consider myself one of the best in the nation on understanding these plans. And I know how to structure it because it does take a lot of time, a lot of time and effort. But I'm very competitive by nature. I love sports, games. I'm like, how they how they talk about Michael Jordan doesn't want to even lose in card games. Well, I'm pretty much like that too. Like even my wife says, Ben, you should lose to your kids once in a while to make them feel good. I said, no, I want to teach them that life isn't about that. So I'm very competitive, and I want that when I build these plans, that no one in the industry can beat the way that I prepare these plans.
Yeah, I love that. And I will state, as a father, we do not let the kids win ever. No. You got to learn how to lose to dad. And someday you'll beat us, and then we'll pass the torch.
Oh yeah, my son's pretty much almost there. Yeah, I know he's catching up.
No. Yeah, my son's almost 19. He beats me in most things now, but I had a good run for quite a while. Yeah, my dad used to say, by the time you're old enough to beat me, I'll be too old, and you'll feel bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, little trick of the trade, a grandpa, terminology now. But no, I love the idea of structuring sort of that B category in the index life insurance where you can put cash value into it and get both. That would seem to make the most sense. But I have a question because I've heard the term a lot. It's more of an old school product, but considering you work with a lot of seniors, is annuities. And annuities, from my understanding, right, is that even really a big thing anymore? It's where you put money into some sort of fund, and then eventually you get like a guaranteed monthly return off of your long-term investment. But that has to sit for quite a while. Do you have a lot of people that still ask for annuities? Is that still even worth considering?
So the word annuity is an ugly word. Like I tell people, hey, what if I can guarantee your money? If the market goes up, you got to capitalize on the up part, but if it goes down, then you don't lose your money. Great, sign me up. What is it? It's annuity. I don't want it. I hate the word. It's like a bad word that people have in their mouths because society has made that a bad word. But Joe, do you know the first annuity ever made was?
I have no clue.
The most common annuity? Social Security. Social Security is the most common annuity in America. So when people say that they don't want an annuity, I say, great. Here's my address. Send your a Social Security check to my house because that's annuity. All an annuity means is that you're getting. Well, first of all, there's different types of annuity. I like to work in the fixed annuity realm, meaning that fixed like a fixed interest rate, fixed mortgage, right? That you're not going to lose your money. So I work with fixed annuities, but I use annuities, like I said in the beginning, because I'm all about the income gap. So the only way to fill the income gap in America is with a guaranteed income annuity. That's what Social Security is. Imagine if we gave Joe people $1 million or $2 million, all the money that they've, instead of putting money into Social Security, we just allow them to just save that money on their own or put into an account, and then after they get to collect it. So now they have $1 million, $2 million. How many Americans, Joe, do you think would just spend that $2 million?
I would say a large amount would spend it much more quickly than if it were given to them in small increments.
That is correct. Mostly everyone would do that because when people win the lottery, or when these athletes make this big chunk of money, why are they going bankrupt for? Because they're spending. So America saw the need that, hey, if we give people the money and they could access it, they're going to blow it. So they said, let's give them a guaranteed paycheck, which is an annuity. Social Security is annuity. It means I get a guaranteed paycheck for the rest of my life. So that's what I do. Like I said, if people have a income gap of 2,500, we fill that income gap from their 401k, from their IRA, from whatever they have saved, mutual funds, brokerage accounts, and fill their income gap with a fixed indexed annuity, income annuity. After their income gap is fixed, then we want to protect their money. There's this thing, you ever heard of the 100 minus your age rule?
It sounds familiar, but please enlighten me.
Okay, so 100 minus your age means if you're 70 years old, 100 minus 70 is 30. That means only 30% of your money should be risky, like a roller coaster. But yet, 99% of advisors, you go and they want to manage your entire $2 million portfolio and have it in a risk account. And they're going to do the 4% rule by giving them income. So here's $1 million, and now we're going to give you $40,000 every year. Well, with income annuity, you now could get 6 or 7%. It all depends on your age and the amount of time you're going to take it out and your state. But let's just say that you're getting 7%. Now with the $1 million, you're now getting $70,000. That's right. So you can use now if you need $40,000, you can use less money, and we can now grow and invest the rest of the money. Everyone, there's a stat that's done that says if people have a guaranteed income in life, they will live a longer life because they're not stressed by market going up and down. Like you mentioned earlier about the crypto, they can invest in crypto. They can have fun with their money as long as their income gap is filled. Now, I mean, people who are firefighters, police officers, they had several pension jobs and they have like 13,000, 14,000 coming in. Great. Their income gap is filled. They need no more income. Any more income, they don't need any more income. It is completely filled. So now from there, is annuity good for them? Well, maybe not. Maybe it is. But in that situation, their income gap is taken care of. The main thing that you use annuities for is to fill someone's income gap. My wife is a school psychologist, so is my mother-in-law. When she retires, she's going to get a pension. What is it? An annuity. My dad worked for Department of Water and Power, got a pension. He passed away in 2010. My mom still gets his pension. What is it? It's an annuity. They're all annuities. So when people say, I don't like the word annuity, great. Give me your pension. Give me your Social Security check. All right. After you can put my address on the screen, send it to me if you don't like annuities. But annuities are good. It's just people, just like life insurance, they don't understand them and they're selling them the wrong way. But the number one thing here is income gap. How do you fill it? By an income annuity. After that, if you want your money safe, we can do it safe. If you want to grow, it can grow. But the number one thing is we need to fill our income gap. And that's only way in America. And people say, well, Ben, I will find another way. Okay, great. When you do, call me up because there's no other way.
No, that's actually brilliant. And I love the way you explained that because you're right. Annuities is sort of like a 4-letter word in the financial
Oh,
industry.
yeah.
And it got a really bad rap a long time ago. And people that I've even talked to were like, no, that's just an outdated vehicle. But I guess you're absolutely right. Social Security is exactly that. But where is sort of the state of Social Security long term, in your opinion? Obviously, there's a lot of potential, murmurings in around the water cooler about it's going to go away. It won't exist in 20 years. It's being mismanaged by the government and those funds are depleting. Is that something that people my son's age, your children's age, should rely on or count on to be there for them? Or is it much smarter now to start doing it personally on your own?
Well, Joe, I'm not God or anything, but yeah, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but the way that things are going now, I mean, it even says on your Social Security check, like it literally tells you when you get your statement, it says when it's going to go away. So it's not going to be there for us, Joe. I doubt it unless we do some crazy things with the stuff. But I mean, but honestly, I don't really need it just because I understand how to save. Um, but no, anyone who thinks that it's going to be there for us is crazy. I mean, because they're going to have to raise taxes like more than you ever seen before. I mean, it's not possible. But and then plus also more people are becoming business owners. Okay, so when you become a business owner, you have a lot more write offs. So let's say someone makes $1 million as a business owner, but they pay themselves 100,000. How are they paying Social Security as $100,000 person? Social Security was invented because back then, like my dad was born in 1945, there were people that were one income. So they had Social Security because almost back then, everyone's working. You hardly hear anyone owning their businesses. If they own a business, they're like super wealthy, super rich, right? But no one really did businesses. So everyone's paying into Social Security at their actual wages. Now there's so many ways to do tax write-offs. Not even one CPA knows all the different ways to do write-offs. Just like not every advisor knows every single product out there, right? So with less people now contributing into Social Security because they're doing so many good, tricky write-offs, it's just going away because we fund it. So without us funding it, it's going to go away. And I don't see it lasting, which is why we need to educate ourselves and start planning for ourselves, which is why my Social Security check, one, is my business. I could pass it on to my kids as long as my kid and my wife gets licensed. I could leave it, that's generational wealth. And two is my insurance policies, where that's my pension stream. I can take money out of my insurance policy. People think only cash value, but you can pull money out of that death benefit side too. So that's how I'm building my wealth, is with my planning for myself and building it yourself, because we cannot rely on the government to protect us. And people that are, they're the ones that are only on Medicaid and Medicare. Now, people talk about also Medicare too, that's going to go away. If if Social Security now, I don't think Social Security will go away per se, because if that happens, we're in an economic collapse. Literally, when I have people that I go to church with and all they have is a Social Security check, that is literally it. They make like $900 a month. And then if you take that away from people, then we're in an economic collapse. So will it go away for them? I think whoever has it will continue to have it, but no one else will be able to get on it. But if they take away Social Security and Medicare, we're doomed. Now, I'm a Christian guy. I believe in Jesus Christ is going to return. So, when that happens, all the money in the world, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to protect you at that point. There's no safe plan. All the plans I gave you, they're all down the drain. Only, God can protect you at that point. But until then, we need to save. So I always say my philosophy is live life physically like we have 100 years to live, but live life spiritually like it's going to end tomorrow. And too many people have the opposite, where we're living life physically like it's going to end tomorrow. Well, then tomorrow doesn't happen. Tomorrow doesn't happen. Then all of a sudden you retire. Shoot, I never saved. And now you're strictly on Medi-Cal in California or Medicaid. So we need to protect ourselves because we can't rely on anyone but ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. And definitely, as a God fearing man, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that last point. But again, that also just goes back to, what worked in the past for our parents, grandparents won't work for us. The same way that you can't retire off of putting money in a savings account.
Right.
And if you are going to use a savings account, certainly use the high interest or high yield savings account. And it's good to have some liquid money in a savings account, but you can't use that as a vehicle to retire on. You do have to explore some of these other assets, other programs and products out there that can exponentially grow your wealth, and also then something that you can tap into later when you actually need it. Because whether or not something like Social Security is going to be around for me and you or our kids, the chances are very slim. So I definitely agree. It's wise to have some of these things, but also know what you currently have. I know I've read articles and talked to other advisors. You'd be blown away by the amount of people that have 401ks sitting out there that they just walked away from and have no idea they even exist. Even if there's 5, 10, 20 grand in them, that's your money that you worked for that either your employer matched to a certain dollar amount and then you quit the job, you forget about it, you move on down the road. There's big bucks in things out there like forgotten 401ks. Do you deal with a lot of that?
Joe, it is amazing on how people really don't care that they have money out there. They're so nonchalant about it. Where I say, okay, well, do you have a 401k? Because when I go over their budget, what do you have? And they say, yeah, you know what? I think I have one, but this like 2 companies ago. Well, how much is it? I don't know. It could be like 8, 10,000. I don't know. Or like, you don't know. Like people have money in all these accounts from previous job, previous job, previous job. They don't even know that they even have it. Yeah, I got some guys saying, you know what? We'll talk about later. Later, like when is later? And they never talk about it. It amazes me on how many 401ks are out there from previous jobs, or it could be 403bs, or 457, depending on who you're working for. And they're just so nonchalant about it. Like, that is crazy because I'm telling you, if I just took 10,000 from your savings, you would freak out. But you have 10,000 somewhere else, you really don't care about, it, or even 100,000, like they don't even know. So
And there's a really good reason I think that psychologically we feel that way. It's because when something's taken out of your paycheck, just like if you're paying for benefits, you're paying your taxes out of there, to you, psychologically, that money's already gone. So it's not your money. That money's out of the way. So when you're getting a portion of your money that's automatically taken and put into a safe account for you, it's like the blinders are on. You just assume that it doesn't exist. But that's sort of the mentality we should take with ourselves moving forward. Certainly, if you're a business owner, you have to pay yourself first. If I make $10,000 in a single month and I just pay my bills and put the rest in my, Wells Fargo savings account, which I don't go to Wells Fargo, just throwing a name out there, but I'm not doing myself any benefits by doing it that way. I need to take a chunk out of there, automatically move it into one of my retirement accounts, my IRA, my, money market accounts. And if I do that sort of like at the beginning when payday hits my account, it's out of sight, out of mind. Then I don't have to worry, did I save this month? It happened before I even saw the money. And then on top of that, I don't miss it. Right. I think there's a psychological trigger that if I have to manually get my
right.
$100 in bills and then take 10 of them and put them in a separate, say rainy day fund, all of a sudden I can see that money, I can touch it, much easier for me to take it back and spend it. But if you make your money automated and sort of work for you with, a certain amount of parameters and rules built into it, that's how you're going to slowly start to see your wealth actually, grow.
and you know what, Joe? That's actually the biggest reason why people don't keep their um Roths going, and why they don't keep their life insurance, cash value life insurance going, they because they can't get it taken out of their paycheck.
Yeah.
So they'll keep that 401k going. Hey, well, at least they have something, when they retire, but they don't keep the Roths going because Roths is optional unless they have a Roth 401k. And they don't keep their insurance plans going too. I have a couple that did keep them going. I got a post office client, which that comes directly out of her paycheck, and some military people. But on average, no, 99% of them, they have to get it, and then they have to get it funded every time. And a lot of people don't want to do that. When it comes to saving, whether you believe in the Bible or not, I say still have the 10% philosophy, like on tithing, where I'm going to put 10% away. And if you don't put 10% away, you're not going to retire. People say, oh, that's too much. People say, Ben, I want to give you $100 and have $1,000,000 when I retire. Mathematically speaking, it's mathematically impossible to have $1,000,000 put $100 away. You just can't, right? Like, you need to put a lot of money away, and just think on how much the Netflixes and Disney and all these other, Amazon, all these other stuff that we're paying for all these programs, right? ESPN Plus and all these other. If you add all that up, that's probably maybe 10% money right there, right? Like lowering your cell phone bill, just a little tiny things that are right, like join up playing with all your family. Why don't you get your own account? Just jump on your friend's account. Hey, throw them a couple bucks, right? And that'll actually save you a lot of money in the long run. But no, 10% minimum. If you don't even do, but we need more than that. If we want a good life, more than that. So, I mean, what percentage is Social Security taken out of our paychecks? Right? My wife is works for the school system. They're taking about 9% out of her paycheck. So even they know 9% is going to give her a pension, right? So you got to do something, but 1% or 0.5% or 0.1% is not magic. I don't care. You can't talk to anyone. No one's gonna, you know, magically make you a retirement plan putting less than 10% away. So
Yeah. And it's amazing how much money we actually spend and blow without realizing it. I'm also a licensed NMLS mortgage broker. So
okay,
I talk to people all the time when they're, hey, I'm trying to save for a new house. I need a down payment. I just can't come up with the money. I just can't. So looking at people's spending habits is a really good indicator of what they understand about money. It's like, okay, well, let's look at your bank statements. Let's take a look at what you're spending each month. Now like they have like, the Rocket Money app that'll automatically do this for you. But it's amazing. Okay, well, you
sure.
get Starbucks twice a day and you do that 7 days a week. If you do the simple math, you're spending $20 a day. That's $140 a week. If you were eliminated that, imagine how much, and again, putting a down payment on a house is significant, but when you're looking
Right,
at like, I can't afford that dream vacation, I can't afford a new car, but you can spend 140 a week drinking fruity coffee drinks. So you just spend your money irresponsibly instead of, hey, why not do a one-time investment, buy a coffee maker, make your coffee at home? Well, convenience. I like to drive through and get it handed to me. Well, then you're not really truly saving or working that hard on your end goals. Instead, you're just making an excuse of why you're justifying that expense. It's okay for me to spend $140 a week on
right.
coffee,
Hmm.
but not save that into an account where then I can use that in 3 years from now and buy a house. So you're just mismanaging, misappropriating funds. And again, I think that's just something, sometimes you need someone to shine a light on you and say, we found one of your culprits. Here's what you're doing.
Fair.
Here's why you're not being able to accomplish what you want to accomplish because you're just doing things a little backwards. But again, it's an easy fix and it's something that people can learn, which will automatically segue me into my next topic for you. You actually wrote a book about this called Stress-Free Retirement. So tell us a little bit about the book and who is it for and what can they learn when they read this that probably is something they need to know now.
Well, clarification, I actually didn't write a book on that. Um, but it is a great book on it. But no, I wish I did. But that was actually written by Patrick Kelly. He's a genius when it comes to the life insurance space, and basically he has quite a bit of books out there, and it's basically teaching all the concepts that a lot of people um, are misinformed about. Like, for example, when it comes for about life insurance, right? Or filling that income gap with annuities. That's what it's about. It's saying that if you want a stress-free life, we need to fill in that income gap. That income gap is with an annuity. Even um, uh, Ted Bann, I believe his name is, the father of the 401k. Even he, the guy who invented the 401k, said that every single person needs an income annuity in their life to have that stress-free retirement. Once our income gap is filled, great. Now, if we have some money in the market, it's okay. Why? Because we have money coming in every month. We're gonna have a lot longer life and be happier when we have guaranteed income coming in. And then it talks about life insurance, about how put money away in cash value life insurance and things like that. So it goes through all these steps that a lot of people, advisors don't do. You were talking about going over people's bills. The majority of advisors, Joe, don't go over people's bills, and I'll tell you why. I was uh, years ago, I was help training. One of my agents went to his parents' house, and like he was actually helping out his parents and then giving them money every month. And after I went over the budget, I'm like, yeah, 1,500, Joe, $1,500 to save every month. And they're like, no. And the husband doesn't do the bills, the mom does. The husband looks at the wife and say, we do, honey? No, he's wrong. I do it again. I do it again. After the fourth time, they're realizing, shoot, we have 1,500 to save every month. The mom looks at me and says, we are done here. Get out of my house. Because people don't want to know that the way that they've been doing stuff is wrong. So a lot of advisors won't point that out to them, which is why me, like I said, I'm competitive and I want to tell people, no, you've been doing it wrong. I'm sorry, but if you're gonna work with me, you've been doing it wrong, and we gotta change it up. So the book talks about stuff that people just don't want to hear. That you got to go over this stuff. You got to go over budgets. You got to, fill that income gap. You got to do these programs a lot of people are not doing, which is why America's messed up. If people say, well, how come I never heard of this before? Well, if you heard of this before, you would be in a different place. We only know what we know, and the government only wants us to know what they want us to know, which is why seniors realize, why didn't anyone ever tell me that I was going to be in a higher tax bracket? Well, if you actually save, Joe, 10% of your money, you actually took the match in your 401k, you actually did what you're supposed to do, yes, you will be in a higher tax bracket. So when you pull all money out of your 401ks and IRAs, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be taxed a lot, which is going to raise your IRMA for Medicare. And then you're like, which is why they die with the money, because they don't want to pull money out, right? Which is why we have the R&Ds at 73, which the government says you got to pull money out when you're 73. So the book talks about all the stuff that we don't want to hear. But when I hand a book to the people, here it is, they don't want to read it. Because why? Because they want to keep doing what they're doing. That's what I said. I'm done, Joe, talking to the young people. I'll talk to the seniors who will listen to me. And all my friends later on, I don't want to be the guy that I said, I told you so. But I mean, I'll pretty much say I told you so in about 20 years from now. So
Yeah, there's definitely a level of shame I think people feel when you're sort of exposed to new information that kind of goes against what you've been doing. And to take it away from a financial matter, think of like physical health. If I'm trying to lose weight and then a personal trainer comes into my kitchen and goes through my pantry and goes, well, here's your problem right here, bro. You're eating Oreos and beef jerky and crap. Well, then you can feel offended and shamed. Well, I was told this says organic. Well, it's not an attack. It's a realization that people need to come to. Like, hey, I'm coming in as the expert in this field, and I'm here to help you and show you what you could be doing better. And again, some people could take that as a personal attack, but wise people would not. It's sort of, okay, I can feel a little guilty for a minute, but now let's fix this and get back to work. And do the right things. I think that's really what a lot of people need, is a sound voice to give them the information and really explain it. So based off of that, if somebody wants to work with you in Serenity Retirement, how can they find you? What's the website? Are you looking, open to taking on new clients? How do they get in touch with Ben?
So my website is Serenity-Retirement. So Serenity-Retirement. You can also find me on LinkedIn. You could, my name's not that popular. There are a couple of Mians out there, and it's Mian, so with the yes out there. So, but there are, you can find Benjamin Mian out there. I also have a Facebook as well. And then also my phone number. Can I get my phone number out?
Sure, absolutely.
And my phone number, my direct number is 323-702-9551, 323-702-9551. I would always tell Joe people what makes me different and unique than other advisors is other advisors have their typical work hours, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. They have their office hours. I do have an office in Pasadena, but I'm also virtual too. So um, I am there for my clients. My family already knows this. They get a little annoyed, but they know that daddy and my wife knows that I do this, that, if I'm on vacation, I will pick up. Nothing bugs me more than when one of my reps that I do business with, and I call them up, I'm on vacation. I'm on vacation. I'm on vacation. Well, if you're managing people's money or, you're the Medicare agent and they need help with their prescriptions or something and you're on vacation, they're going to get upset. So I really don't have office hours. The only time I tell people don't call me is from sundown Friday, sundown Saturday. That's my Sabbath. That's my rest day. But other than that, call me. I mean, I will pick up on Sundays, and I usually get back with you within an hour or two. Latest is 24 hours, but that's what makes me unique. When people say, Ben, why should I go with you, virtual advisor versus a person down the street? I said, well, the person down the street give you their cell phone number. You know, do they give you, are they your Facebook friend? Like if I screw you over, then my reputation is ruined because you have links to every single access that I give you. But instead, they give you the office number and then it's closed, right? So you have direct access to me. The number that I gave out is my direct cell phone number. So people can reach me whenever they want. Text message if I'm in a meeting or something like that. But I will get back to you. So that's what makes me unique is you get that white glove service. I have a smaller firm, so it's not just me. I have around 50 agents on my staff as well. But when you're working with me, it'll be just me. So people say, Ben, will I get hand off to someone else? I said, no, it'll be me. Well, what if you die? Well, if I die, someone will take care of it. Don't worry about it. But hopefully, but don't worry. You're with me until I pass away. But other than that, yeah, you're working directly with me. I'm not going to pass you off to another agent, to another advisor. You're working directly with me.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. I love that, and you're right. That's the best way to handle clients and people that you're helping with their biggest life sort of investments. So appreciate you coming on and sharing all this wise information today. Don't forget, guys, serenity-retirement.com. I'll also put your cell phone number in and around this video, so make sure to give them a call if you're interested in learning more about Serenity Retirement. Check out the website. If nothing else, take this valuable information and start building a plan with your financial advisor. If Ben's not going to be the guy for you, definitely start to build your long-term wealth. Stop thinking the old school way. Things are going to be different for us moving forward and our children and their children. So we have to plan accordingly. So Ben, this was great. I really appreciate you coming on the Measuring Post and sharing all this wonderful information. Again, check out Serenity Retirement. And really looking forward to growing my financial wealth. Hopefully you can be a big part of me doing that moving forward myself.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.